This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know. We follow up on the context and, by gosh, try to help each other understand.
Today, Andy Beach tells us how Hollywood is using AI to make films, and Google pauses the rollout of smarter photo search.
Probably a good idea. We'll tell you why. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Jenn Cutter.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Google said it has paused its rollout of the Ask Photos feature of Google Photos. Product manager Jamie Aspinall wrote on X that it is, quote, not where it needs to be in terms of latency, quality, and UX. For those not in the know, that's user interface. He said that Google will ship an improved version in about 2 weeks, so it's not going to be paused for long. And I guess if it's rolled out to you, you get to keep it. That brings back the speed and recall of the original search is what he hopes to do in that 2-week pause. He was actually responding to complaints from a Roblox engineer, Youssef Ameri, and David Lieb. David Lieb co-founded Bump Tech, which became Google Photos. So he's essentially the co-founder of Google Photos. He no longer works at Google now, but these are not people unknown to Aspinall. Ask Photos uses Google's Gemini models to interpret natural language search queries. So the idea is that you could say something like, which ramen restaurants have I been to? And instead of just giving you all the pictures of ramen, it would only give you pictures of ramen at ramen restaurants, or even pictures of the outside of the ramen restaurant, because it would know what that was. It would not give you pictures of instant ramen you made at home. It was described at Google I/O in 2024 this way. Gemini's multimodal capabilities can help understand exactly what's happening in each photo and can even read text in the image if required. Ask Photos then crafts a helpful response and picks which photos and videos to return. Now, the keyword part of this is apparently working. It can actually read the text in the photos if you put it in quotes as a keyword search. It's the more natural language stuff that is laggy and doesn't always work as you want. It was launched in early access in September, so not everybody has it. You might have it since September, you might not, but apparently people have complained that it's slow and not always accurate. It's yet another example of how these tools are good, but maybe not always shipping product good. And Jen, the other thing that caught my eye about this story was the friendly exchange of the complaints that led to a reasonable admission and action.
Yeah, like they were valid complaints. When it's not working, it's not working. They had asked what a lot of people like me ask was, how do I turn this off? Mm-hmm. And and immediately got a response. Now, of course, it does help when you all know each other, you're all in the same circle, and you all kind of know what you're talking about when it comes to tech products. So it didn't start as a very high animosity request.
Yeah.
And was dealt with as a non-high animosity request.
And I think it was Lieb who said in a follow-up, he's like, it's always good when users complain. It means they care. What you don't want is silence, which is, of course, easy for him to say because he's not the product manager. But I get what he's saying. And it reminded me of the times that I've seen a reply on social networks and started to get my back up a little, at it, and then saw who it was from and was like, oh, well, they mean well, and totally changes your opinion of a criticism. And I think that's definitely what happened here. I'm not even sure where to go with that analysis, but I was like, I bet you get a different reaction from Aspinall if it's people he doesn't know complaining in the same way.
Yes, and if you didn't already know him, you're not going to get a text about when it's fixed.
You definitely, you're probably not in his contacts. No, you're not going to get his mass text. So yeah, I think a lot of people are jumping on this story because it is very buzzy. I'm seeing everybody writing about it today because it is an admission by Google that its AI tool is not up to stuff and they have to pause it and make it good. But I think it's the right thing to do to say like, yeah, this isn't working right. Give us 2 weeks. We're going to pause the rollout. We're not going to take it away from anyone, but we're going to try to make it better before we start rolling it out, which is why you do slow rollouts of stuff in the first place, right? So that you can get the feedback and make it better.
Yeah, like I'm not the world's biggest AI fan, as I believe has been noted, but these tools I love. Anything for accessibility, and for my own self, I was trying to fix my helmet, and I was searching on my iOS phone for all my past helmet pictures because I had taken pictures before I took it apart, because of course you do. And yeah, it was giving me stuff that was not a helmet.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot of web searching from the phone stuff disabled, so it's not getting any assistance from any IQ stuff. It's not on the phone. So.
Yeah, but you're at least with Apple anyway, you're supposed to be able to do that on the phone at some point. And so yeah, it would be nice if that came sooner than later, but it doesn't seem like it is there.
In fairness, taking out like the liner of the helmet probably made it harder to recognize as a helmet.
Yeah, but these things are supposed to be
get
smart.
There, hopefully.
They should be able to get there. Exactly. That's the impressive part. And Google's still ahead of Apple on the operating system side with this, even with the pause in the rollout.
DTNS is made possible by you, the listener. Thanks to Chris Allen, Reed Fischler, Larry Bailey, and our new patrons, Vicente, Eric, Robin, and Carlos.
Woo, 4 new patrons.
Welcome.
Love that. Come on in. There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
Samsung published a blog post showing the next chapter of Ultra with an animation of a foldable phone that looks like the Z Fold. Samsung promoted it as useful by voice when folded and becoming an entertainment and workspace hub when unfolded, which seems obvious. The only real difference here would be the specs of the Samsung Galaxy S Ultra in the Z Fold form factor. And the rumors have been of a tri-fold from Samsung, which this does not indicate at all. Meanwhile, as a side note for Samsung users, or possibly former Samsung users, the company is clearing out old accounts. Any Samsung account that has not been signed into for 2 or more years will be subject to deletion starting on July 31st.
Yeah, which you may not care about. but if you do, that's good to know. Yeah, this promotion is odd. I can't tell if they're making the S Ultra available in a foldable or making the Z Fold available as an Ultra, probably the latter. But yeah, the promotion, I was like, yeah, that's what foldables do. And I guess if you have the Ultra specs inside, it can do it better.
It's like, yep, that sure is what it looks like.
Yep. In U.S. government laws about tech news, U.S. District Judge Mark Walker has ordered the state of Florida not to enforce parts of a law restricting social media use for children until a court case challenging that law is held. So this is what's called a preliminary injunction. Doesn't mean the law isn't valid. It means let's hold off enforcing it until we're sure whether it's valid or not. However, he did allow one part of the law to go into effect. That's the part that requires a company to honor a request from parents to shut down accounts of children younger than 16 years old. So that goes right into effect because that part's not being challenged. Also, more than 260 U.S. state legislators from multiple parties, so Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, signed a letter opposing a provision of the federal budget reconciliation bill that would prohibit states from enacting AI regulation for 10 years. You might have seen this in the headlines, like, no AI regulation will happen for 10 years. That's not the case yet. That provision was included in a version of the bill passed by the U.S. House. The Senate is now deliberating that. In its deliberations, it could remove that section. And even if it does not, this is a budget reconciliation bill. And I won't go into all the details about what makes this different from other bills, but the short version is that provision could be removed by the House parliamentarian if it is deemed not to be directly related to budgetary issues, because it's a budget reconciliation bill. So anything not related to the budget gets stripped out. And I don't know. I'm not a House parliamentarian, Jen, but feels like that's not related to the budget, at least to me.
Feels strongly. And though I am not a teenager, I have talked to some parents of teenagers down in Florida, and the teenagers themselves are unconcerned about any possible laws, because they're like, we beat stuff before, we'll do it again. Like the past story of using photos of, say, Half-Life's G-Man to get through some authenticators.
I feel like this will affect 10% of teenagers who just aren't motivated to try to get around it, right? Yeah.
Wyze has launched its outdoor security camera called the Bulb Cam. It includes a smart bulb that can screw into an existing light bulb socket along with a camera. That way you can run a powered camera without having to run an electric line or go without an outdoor light. The bulb is an 800 lumen LED dimmable bulb and a 160-degree 2K camera with color night vision. It's $50, though you will need to buy a 256 gig SD card if you want local storage and a $20 a month Wyze subscription if you want cloud storage and motion alerts.
I think this is genius. I immediately wanted to buy one because $50 for that combo doesn't seem bad. I can get an SD card. I don't have to pay for that cloud service. And then I was like, I don't know where I would I'm like, I don't know that I have much of a need for this. I have a doorbell cam for watching people coming up to my door. That kind of covers all my outdoor surveillance. I guess I could put it in the backyard to just watch the dog.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, mostly dog and making sure that there's no animals that you would need to be aware of keeping the dog away from creeping in.
But a lot of people do need this, and I think this is a great way to do it because it means an easier installation. And we have outdoor motion-sensitive lights that would be able to work with this, which would be great.
Cool.
A few security updates for you. Qualcomm released patches Monday for 3 zero-day vulnerabilities discovered by Google's threat analysis group. Your device manager will deliver the patch, not Qualcomm, but you might want to be on the lookout for that. Google's threat intelligence group also warned of a phishing scam against Salesforce users. So if your company uses Salesforce, pay attention. Attackers have been calling employees, pretending to be IT support, and then convincing them, social engineering, to hand over credentials that they then use to steal data from the company's Salesforce installation. So beware of those kinds of calls. Finally, Microsoft is offering the 27 member states of the European Union free access to a new European security program. Among the benefits are increased AI-based threat intelligence sharing, strengthening security and resilience of government systems, and expanding efforts to disrupt and dismantle bad actors.
Social engineering, the the danger that never goes away, never goes out of style.
That's one where awareness is a big help in preventing it from happening. Because if you don't know to be on the lookout, you could be more easily convinced that it's real than if you're like, wait, you're trying to get my Salesforce credentials? I heard about a social engineering thing. How do I know this is real?
Computer scientists affiliated with Spain's MDIA networks, Radboud University in the Netherlands, and Belgium's KU Leuven discovered that Meta and Yandex were using their Android apps to monitor local host ports to gather web cookie data and help link users to browsing data. Localhost lets a device make requests to itself. By using this port, apps were able to evade privacy protections, which are focused on outbound network traffic. After the disclosure, Meta stopped sending data to localhost and largely removed the code.
I didn't see anything about Yandex stopping this, but that's a Russian company now, so who knows what they're up to. I imagine this has got to violate some kind of Google provision, and Meta said the only thing they've said about it is, we are talking to Google about a misunderstanding about the blah, 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 blah. They have not admitted to this, but the code is gone, and I am one, if you've followed me throughout the years, who constantly is telling people, like, hold on, there might be a good reason of this. I've been in a company when they do something and everybody thinks it's malicious, but it's not. This is malicious.
Okay. Good. That's where
I'm
I was
here
coming
to tell
from.
you, like, I cannot think of a good reason why you would go monitor localhost to get web cookies unless you're trying to circumvent privacy protection. So this is bad. And I think the signal that it's bad is that Meta's not commenting on it. If they had a reason or even a plausible reason why this would be legitimate, you'd see them saying that. They're not saying anything. 42 organizations led by Nokia are working on an unmanned aerial vehicle project to protect European critical civil infrastructure. Utilities and pipelines and cables and internet and all of that sort of thing. Other members of the project include defense firms. So that includes Safran, Leonardo, Saab. U.S. chip company NVIDIA is part of this. Among the members of the consortium are startups working on things like adding laser or radar sensors to the drones that are built by the defense companies, but you can add some additional sensors to give them some additional capabilities. Project is being funded in part by the EU's Chip Joint Undertaking program. And Nokia has been giving indications it would like to get into the defense space, so it's not a surprise that they're leading this.
Yeah, I was mostly surprised to learn that Saab was in the defense industry as it became a whole big Canadian thing. It's like, well, why didn't we get stuff from them instead? And I was like,
I had a friend at high school who drove a Saab. That's what I always think of. Yeah.
Exactly. I had to borrow a car once that was a Saab convertible, which was honestly super fun to drive up and down the Gardner. I enjoyed that car very much. And then I found out they're like Yamaha and make way more stuff than you think they do.
Yeah. Now they're making drones. Look at that.
China suspends exports of many rare earth minerals used in electronics in April, and now some European auto parts makers are suspending production. Mercedes-Benz is not affected by the shortage, but said it is talking to suppliers about building buffers to protect supply chains. BMW said some of its suppliers were affected, but it has not impacted BMW production yet. The situation is causing companies to look at alternative manufacturing methods, like motors that use less or no rare earths. BMW had developed a magnet-free electric motor for its EVs, for example. Companies are also looking to develop alternate supplies that do not rely on Chinese processing of the minerals, and the EU says it is continuing talks with China to ease the restrictions.
Yeah, a lot of these are not found in China. They are deals that China has made with places like the Congo to get the rare earth minerals. Then they process them and make them available and sell them. And that's fairly typical. Ukraine does a lot of the processing of this as well, not nearly as much as China, though. And when the rare earth mineral restrictions were put in place, it was only a matter of time until you start seeing signs of it having an effect. This is the first sign. It's not shutting down car production, but this is the canary in the coal mine where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Some of the smaller producers are suspending production until this gets figured out. Somebody needs to figure this out sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to see the figuring this out because I know like a lot of people made fun. I'm an F1 fan and a lot of people made fun of when they kind of launched a very quiet electric version. And you know what? Some of the tech to come out of that is super cool. I'm glad they did that because you need that push to get into the newer, cleaner tech.
Yeah. And again, you're going to need rare earths to make the newer, cleaner tech, so this is a problem. Not just it's showing up in the auto industry first, which is interesting. But if it keeps going, it's going to show up in other industries. So this is probably going to get worked out, but it's definitely a huge piece of leverage for China to hold over people. So we're gonna keep looking for these signs of it increasing in its effect. ABBA's 80-year-old Bjorn Ulvaeus told South by Southwest London that he's writing a musical using AI tools. Now, I didn't see which tools he's using. I don't know if he mentioned it, but I didn't see any mention of it. He did say he's about 3/4 of the way through, and here's a quote. "It is like having another songwriter in the room with a huge reference frame. It is really an extension of your mind. You have access to things that you didn't think of before." Now, he also said, it's lousy at writing a whole song and very bad at lyrics. So he's not universally praising it. He says he used it to prompt him to think in different directions rather than to write things whole cloth. So it didn't replace him as a writer. He's using it as a way to inspire his creativity and mold his creativity. Here's the other part of this that's interesting. Ulvaeus is part of the International Confederation of Songwriters and Composers, and he's involved in the negotiations to ensure that music generators pay royalties to the original creators of music who are used to train the systems. So he's not giving companies a pass, but he's also not boycotting the tools. He's like, the tools are great. They're not great at everything. They're good at some things, and they should pay us for the training that they use to make the tools. But that doesn't mean the tools are bad. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Also, in related Hollywood meets AI news, AMC Networks, which has BBC America and AMC TV, has reached a deal with Runway to use Runway's generative tools to generate marketing images and help pre-visualize shows that have yet to be produced. So the idea there is if you're a showrunner, you can try out some ideas without having to shoot material. So it gives you a chance to do things you wouldn't have the budget to do otherwise. And of course, create a wider range of marketing materials and promos around stuff.
So I get the previs work. Previs is very expensive. And this also lets people, even in theoretically like the early pitching stage, to help nail things down and implement feedback almost instantly. The marketing, though, we've seen some very not great stuff from Amazon Prime for shows that exist that have marketing materials and making terrible, terrible thumbnails.
Yeah, you're going to have to be careful how you use this, but it's basically what Bjorn is saying. It's like, it would be wrong for me to have it try to write the whole song, but if I use it right, it actually speeds up my creativity. So what you saw with those thumbnails was like, yeah, that's the bad way to do it.
Yeah.
But it can still speed up generation and allow you to create wider marketing materials if you don't let it get out of hand, and you look at the thumbnail and go, yes, that one's good. No, that one's not.
Yeah, I liked the ABBA approach to, I'm using it as a sounding board because he's probably like other creative people who don't necessarily work at the other hours that their co-writers want to be awake for. So you have something to bounce off of, but you're still the one doing the work. And to me, that is important.
And I love that he seemed very enthusiastic about it while also not compromising in the saying, oh, yeah, no, they need to pay us, but it's a good tool. I thought that was a really interesting take. You don't see that often.
Also, this goes to show that old people can absolutely learn new tech.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I was like, I love that he's getting into this and
I hope I'm
that
able to do that when I'm 80 years old, too.
Yeah, and do contract negotiations. Man, better than Absolutely. I am right now.
Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper into another topic.
Natasha Lyonne has ventured into AI filmmaking with Uncanny Valley, a sci-fi project blending human creativity and generative AI to explore virtual reality's impact on identity. Andy Beach tells us more.
Andy, thanks again for joining us, especially because you brought a story with one of my favorite actors. Probably people know her most from Orange is the New Black or maybe Poker Face on Peacock. But tell us what Natasha Lyonne is up to here.
Yeah, I absolutely love her too. Natasha Lyonne has recently announced that she's working with, I want to get the name right, Britt Marling, and collaborating with technologist Jaron Lanier to create a new independent film. It's called Uncanny Valley, and it really tells the story of a teenage girl whose world and life is shaped by this augmented reality game. So within the film, while the film itself is not an AR or VR piece, you're going to be going in and out of that world and that environment a lot. And for those scenes, they are working very specifically with an ethically sourced generative AI model called Mary from a company, Moon Valley. And so this got a lot of buzz this week, I think in part because Poker Face is back on the air, but also because this really hits into a lot of areas we're talking about. It's the use of generative AI in a mainstream film, even though this is an independent production, but it brings up that fact that everything that went into creating Moon Valley's model Mary was licensed and has traceability and is ethically sourced. And this is the sort of the convergence of a lot of conversations of what we talk about in this current age of AI.
Yeah, it just strikes me as funny that what was true once for coffee beans is now being applied to generative models. But yeah, so the Mary model, they have the receipts, I guess, where they could say like, this is everything that went in the training data. We're transparent about the training data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think importantly, Adobe had a little bit of a gaffe early on where they were touting Firefly as an ethically sourced AI model, and then had to acknowledge that, the Mid-Journey content that they had licensed and used didn't necessarily have provenance to that. So I think people are being even more explicit now about not only did they license the content, but what is the provenance and the background of that content that they've traced, and can they provide that it itself was ethically created as part of the process.
Is it as good though? Like that's the other side of it, is like, great, you're using a different model, but not all models are as good at generating this sort of thing. Like, can you tell?
Yeah, it's interesting. And in this case, I'm not sure that it matters, because it is, and I'll be honest, I haven't gotten a chance to play with the Mary model yet. So I don't know the answer of what the quality is, but given that it's playing a role of being the sort of the augmented reality pieces of a game that even is supposed to be from sort of the a little bit in the past, I think they get a little bit of a pass on what that quality is. So it's probably good enough for the scenario they're using it in. My personal, I suspect personally that even as good as it is now, it's likely to get much better in the next sort of 6 months to 12 months, because that is the speed and the rotation that we sort of see on quality changes coming to models as they get updated.
Yeah, it's a clever use of generative models, because you made it part of the story that is it's almost like diegetic sound, right? Like this is not a model pretending to be something else. This is model playing itself. It is a character in the story.
It's kind of a perfect first use case of it in a big production, because it gives it the guardrails of keeping it in that environment where we're not trying to say that the entire scene or the entire thing is shot and is supposed to look like real life. It's supposed to look like a game.
Yeah. And that makes it easier. On the ethical side, though, I mean, I know we talked a lot about the sources of the data, but what about the power usage? Because that's another thing that people object to a lot of times with these models, is how power hungry they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that ultimately becomes the issue primarily for the cloud that is storing it. And this is a thing that both Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and AWS have all made commitments to being carbon neutral by certain dates. Generally, they're all at a sort of 2030 timeline. Microsoft had actually been ahead of that and had been carbon neutral for quite a while until AI took off and proliferated, and it sort of set them back a few more years. I know from my time at Microsoft that they also have publicly announced future dates where they plan to be carbon positive as well, actually putting back to the community. So I think it will have to be the platforms and the data centers that really focus on pushing for that. But we do need people talking about this, and we need groups pushing for the sustainability and the green side of AI, because it's going to be critical to help get it to the scale that we want at the sort of at the environmental costs that we are comfortable with.
Yeah. Is this really precedent setting? I mean, it is on guardrails. It is an independent picture. Like, how much do you think this ends up having an effect on future productions?
I can guarantee you there's a lot of places in Hollywood that are going to be watching this. You're absolutely right. It's a safe first test. It's the trial balloon that people are putting up. But I bet a lot of people watch it. And I bet we see, based on the success of this, more and more productions look for ways to integrate it in a clever way.
Yeah. And it is in production, right? So it's not like, where can I see it? We got to wait for them to make it and then they'll let us know where it ends up and where you can see it. Andy, thank you so much for bringing this to us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
And if folks want to find out more about what you do, where should they go?
Yeah, I'm always looking for stories like this around the convergence of media technology and AI, and you can read about it on my Substack, which is abeach.substack.com.
If you got thoughts on any of this, join our conversation on Discord. You can get into the DTNS Discord by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, RW is responding to Dr. Nikki's report Tuesday about infrared contact lenses.
Yeah, I think this is emblematic of a lot of people's reaction. RW writes, as a contact lens wearer, wow. As a contact lens wearer, oh no, another expense. But he did add, thank you, Dr. N, for being on the case.
Yeah, I've got teammates who play in contact lenses, and so I hear their gripes about all of this, and I'm still impressed that anyone can stick stuff in their eye. I can't do it.
You know what? I'm sure if I had to someday, I would be able to do it. But I only need the glasses mostly for reading, so I have never taken the jump to contact lenses. Infrared, though, is kind of cool. I don't know if I want to learn to stick my fingers in my eyes for it, though. Just saying.
So what are you thinking about? Have you got some insight into a story? Please share it with us over at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Big thanks to Andy Beach and RW for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. And good news, if you want to keep up on music news, Daily Music Headlines now available as an Amazon Flash briefing. Add it to your Echo or Show today. Talk to you soon.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.